Mangwana ni malelepo fukenjani klekwas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening in the SADC region and beyond. You are, as usual, joined by Ashwin Berry and Aina Raiza Kweo.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. You would be happy to know that today is a lazy day. Here is a special day you can celebrate without getting up from the sofa. Lazy Day is an ideal excuse to take a break and enjoy some precious me time without feeling guilty about it. You know what? I think I should take a lazy day today.
You do what you need to. Anything you do after 8 a.m. is not my business.
Here's more on Lazy Day. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. In our first story this morning, global warming unequivocally human-driven at unprecedented rate, says the IPCC. Climate change is a widespread, rapid and intensifying, and some trends are now irreversible, at least during the present time frame, according to the latest much anticipated Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report released yesterday. Human-induced climate change is already affecting many weather and climate extremes in every region across the globe. Scientists are now also observing changes across the whole Earth climate system, in the atmosphere, in the ocean, in ice floes, and on land. Many of these changes are unprecedented, and some of the shifts are in motion now, while some, such as continued sea level rise, are already irreversible for centuries to millennia ahead, the report warns. But there is still time to limit climate change, the IPCC expert says. Strong and sustainable reduction in emission of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases could quickly make air quality better, and in 20 to 30 years, global temperature could stabilize.
In our second story, President and Chairperson of SADC direct launch of SADC mission in Mozambique. Filipe Nyusi, President of Mozambique and Chairperson of the Southern African Development Community, welcomed his Botswana counterpart Mokgweetsi Masisi, Chairperson for Cooperation in the areas of defense and safety of the SADC in the city of Pemba. A statement from the Presidency of the Republic received by Radio Mozambique indicates that the two heads of state will officially launch the SADC mission in Mozambique, a contingent which integrates defense and security forces from South Africa, Botswana, Angola, Lesotho, and Tanzania, active in the areas of land, naval, aerial, intelligence, and logistics operations, among others. The presidency document says this effectively materializes the decisions of the SADC Extraordinary Summit held in Maputo on 23 June 2021 and signals SAMIM's full readiness for deployment in the Northern Operational Theater in support of Mozambique in combating the terrorism and violent extremism plaguing some districts of Cabo Delgado province to the detriment of the country and the region.
In our next story, 4 billion kwacha for SADC Summit. The government has set aside 4 billion kwacha for the 41st Southern African Development Community Heads of State and Government Summit, which starts today. At a media briefing in Lilongwe on Sunday, Foreign Affairs Minister Eisenhower Mbaka and Information Minister Gospel Kazako indicated that out of the 4 billion, 1.1 billion would be used for operations. He further indicated that out of the 1.2 billion set aside for operations, 700 million was provided for the 2021 and 2022 national budget, while the rest was provided for by development partners. It is expected that part of the money would be used for purchasing of vehicles that would be used during the summit and onwards. Other funds would also go towards the purchase of information and communication technology equipment to be used for enhancing virtual participation of delegates. 400 delegates are expected to attend the summit, which will be in hybrid format, as some delegates will be participating virtually.
Swinging back to Mozambique, police catch 15 illegal Malawians heading to South Africa. The Mozambican police announced on Friday it had detained 15 citizens of Malawi for illegal immigration and presenting false documents in the central province of Sofala. The 15 Malawians, including 2 minors, were arrested on 29 July after being found on a bus in Gorongosa district during police checks in the province. The group presented false documents to the authorities. Mangazi Singano, spokesman for the Migration Service in Sofala, told private television station STV. According to authorities, the group was sentenced to 1 month in prison, converted into community services. The sentence is to be served in the country of origin in Malawi. The Sofala Migration Directorate has organized their repatriation, the Senami spokesman added. According to Senami, the Malawians were bound for South Africa via Maputo.
In our next story, Cape Verde could be the first country in Africa to vaccinate 70% of their population. If current dynamic is maintained, Cape Verde could be the first African country to reach the target of 70% of the population vaccinated against COVID-19. According to Minister Ulysses Koresia Silva, the Cape Verdean government has set a goal of vaccinating at least 70% of the adult population before the end of the year. To encourage the population to join the vaccination campaign against COVID-19, the government launched last week the COVID certificate, which customers will be required to present in restaurants and bars as of September and in nightclubs, which reopen on the 1st of October. The certificate in digital and paper format is the full replication of the model used by the countries of the European Union, confirming a test with a negative result for COVID-19 recovery from the disease or at least the first dose of vaccine recognized by the country's health authorities.
In our next story, 7 South African soldiers arrested for aiding smuggling of stolen cars to Zimbabwe. 7 South African soldiers who are accused of facilitating the smuggling of stolen vehicles from their country to Zimbabwe have been denied bail by a Musina magistrate court sitting in Louis Trichardt. Limpopo's Department of Public Prosecution spokesperson Ms. Mashadu Malabi Jangi said the accused persons were arrested between 21 and 22 June. She says the case was postponed to 1 September, pending further investigations, and the suspects will remain in custody. Jangi said from June 2019 to February 2020, the suspects allegedly accepted a bribe of 15,000 rand to allow each stolen vehicle to cross the border to Zimbabwe. Acting on a tip-off, the Hawks and the military police in a joint operation Night Vigil managed to arrest the suspects, added Jangi. The smuggling of vehicles along the Limpopo River is widespread, and most of the vehicles will be going to Malawi, Mozambique, and Tanzania and Zimbabwe.
In our next story, kidnapped Nigerian girl free after 7 years. One of the Nigerian schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram militants more than 7 years ago is free and has been reunited with her family, a state governor's office said on Saturday. Nearly 300 schoolgirls, most aged between 12 and 17, were abducted by Boko Haram in April 2014 from Chibok in northeastern Nigeria, sparking an international outcry and the Bring Back Our Girls campaign for their release. Over the years, many of the girls were released or found by the military, but more than 100 are still missing, Amnesty International said in April to mark the 7th year anniversary of the abduction.
Now in Botswana, government embraces Khama's breath of life. Despite having recently told the media that his donors were being harassed by state agents, former President Ian Khama has registered Sky Khama Foundation, through which he is seeking donations. The The Sky Kama Foundation, through its Chief Executive Officer, Mohomotsi Kaboya Modimo, has announced that it has since identified 500 oxygen concentrators for possible purchase, and they are soliciting for financial assistance. Government appreciates any efforts made by any organization or individual to help in the fight against COVID-19. Many organizations and individuals have, since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, been assisting the government in that regard. Some have assisted with money, while others have done so in kind. All these gestures are highly acknowledged and appreciated. Contributions are coming in from across the country, as well as from Botswana living abroad, including as far as the United States. As of now, we have not quantified the figures, as this is only the second day of appeal, he said.
In our next story, garbage cans located along Boulevard to 30 June vandalized. The city of Kinshasa produces more than 10,000 tons of waste per day, most of it made up of household waste. This required the installation of garbage cans on the arteries, mainly along the Boulevard to 30 June. However, that these public trash cans are regularly vandalized. The Commissioner General in charge of the environment, Letitia Bena Kambaba, said that the main arteries to the commune of Ngobe have been equipped with new public bins to allow passerbys to throw their waste in and order them to commune of Ngobe clean. However, we observe that these bins are vandalized supposedly because they are rarely emptied when they fill up. This act caused garbage on the sidewalks of the boulevard, this exposing users to dangers and bad smells, she noted. Ms. Bena Kambaba deplored this behavior of some Kinshasa residents before inviting the people of Kinshasa to be aware and act responsibly.
Now in Eswatini, MTN to pilot 5G network in 2022. MTN Eswatini will, in the first quarter of 2022, pilot the 5G network in selected network sites as part of a bigger plan to accelerate technological advancements and usher the Internet of Things into full swing. MTN Corporate Affairs Manager Mandla Luponvo said yesterday that the company had just completed testing a solution through which farmers could track their livestock, where they are, and the state of their health in real time. He said this cloud-based technology empowered farmers to gather data, identify behavior patterns, which minimizes speculation about the condition of their livestock. The tracking solution empowers farmers with insights to better manage their stock, make informed decisions, and avoid needless losses through theft or disease, he said. Lupodvo added that MTN had already launched home cameras, a service that enabled one to monitor activities happening in their home via a mobile phone. However, with 5G, the delivery of such services will improve massively.
In our next story, Mnangagwa book sells 50,000 copies minutes after the launch. President Emerson Mnangagwa's biography, A Life of Sacrifice, is proving to be a bestseller after it sold 50,000 copies just a few minutes after its launch in Harare on Thursday. The book, controversially authored by former MDC Alliance senior official Eddie Cross, is going for a price of $15 per copy. The book chronicles Mnangagwa's introduction to his life and role in the liberation struggle right through the November 2017 coup. Speaking at the launch, Mnangagwa, who was a guest of honor, urged youth to make sacrifices for Zimbabwe development as he did during and after the country's liberation struggle. What differs is the form and nature of a sacrifice demanded of us at every development stage of our nation and the circumstances that face and shape it. In our case, we had to pick up arms, suffer incarceration, suffer injuries, and even die to win back our freedom and collective independence, he said. Today's generation must also make sacrifices for our nation. This is demanded of them to advance the new development epoch we are facing.
Now, in the last of our top stories, indigenous Swati dishes at Dubai Expo. Happy Valley Hotel chef Mehluleli Mutetwa will be the local chef to represent Eswatini at the Expo 2020 Dubai Culinary Experience Pod, where he will be showcasing indigenous dishes. Mutetwa was unveiled during a media briefing at the hotel on Thursday by Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs Moses Vilakati, who was with the hotel's board chairman Prince Lonkokela and other guests. The expo kicks off on October 1st, with the main day being the 12th of the same month, which has been allocated as Eswatini's Culture Day. Over 192 countries will participate at the expo, which ends in March 2022 and is expected to attract over 25 million people across 6 months. Minister Vilakati said Mtetwa is another Eswatini export through which the Kingdom of Eswatini will have the opportunity to give the world a taste of the rich and unique culture by showcasing gastronomic delights at the Expo 2020 Dubai Culinary Experience Pod. Well, that brings us to the end of the first batch of stories that we have here for you on Africa Good Morning. After the break, we're going to be talking a bit about the violence that did occur in Eswatini earlier in the year, and we have so much more for you, so stick around. This is still Africa Good Morning. See you soon. Now, the Trade Union Congress of Namibia, TUCNA, has condemned what it called violence and repression against protesters in Eswatini. TUCNA Secretary General Mahongora Kavihua says his union is in touch with its sister organization, Tukoswa in Eswatini, about the situation on the ground. Kavihua has written to both Namibia's International Relations Minister, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, and Eswatini Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini to demand an end to the ongoing violence in the Mountain Kingdom. Kavihua is explaining to Africa Good Morning about his union's position on the matter. Good morning, sir. How are you? All right, sir. We can't quite hear you yet, but please just make sure that your microphone is on and just confirm that by answering your first question. Tell us about the statement that you issued.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning also to the Namibian people. We have joined the international community where we demanded the immediate release of those that were in prison, as we have observed that the action for democratic Eswatini have intensified of late. We have seen a number of protests going forward, but it should also be understood that the protesting of the Eswatini people did not start only of recent. It started long way since the proclamation of the Grid of 1973, which banned the other political parties. So these intensifications have alerted the international community and SADC community, more especially trade unions, because the victims of the last violence, repressions, and brutality perpetrated by the government against the citizen is mainly among members and the workers. So as of that one, we wrote to our international minister where we demanded that the government need to condemn this repressive activities by this government to advise their colleagues so that their colleagues can Eswatini to freely express their feelings. Three, we also requested our government to ensure that the rights of the citizen of Eswatini are respected. Four, we requested our government to put pressure on the government of Eswatini to unconditionally release those that were, arrested as a result of their uprising towards democracy. Lastly, we also requested our government to advocate for the establishment of the international commission that, under the supervision of the UN, want to investigate the perpetrated or carried out in Eswatini, to also to ensure the smooth transition from monarchy to constitutional democracy. We want these people to start electing their own leadership freely and democratically. We don't want the situations where people are still living under the old barbaric monarchy system.
All right. Now, what briefing are you getting from your sister union in Eswatini?
To COSA, we are communicating through various means. They have, of late, informed us more than 70 people are massacred by the government. A lot of them, they were arrested. There is a high number of job losses. There is a visible increase in poverty and hunger. So the situation is completely out of control. Of course, in your earlier inset, you talk about the Shefa going to Dubai, but those are just lips, glowing kind of exercises. In reality, the repression is very high in Eswatini. And our governments and SADC governments are just sleeping and whining with a king while the peoples are suffering.
Now, could you tell us how workers are being affected by the violence going on in Eswatini? And if you could just add to that by telling us if there's anything else that the trade union movement can do other than issuing statements.
Thank you very much. I think that I have narrated that earlier, that there is a high job losses. Businesses are closing because of violence. So the workers are losing their job. The fundamental workers' rights of freedom of association and right to collective bargaining is violated. And because even there is a huge crackdown on the leadership of TUCOSA, our sister federations in that country. What could the trade union do besides issuing the statement? We have issued this statement to our government, but we are continuing consulting. It's not difficult for us to put SADC, to make SADC come stand still as a federations in the SADC region. So we don't want to move toward that direction yet. But what we are saying is that we are capable of putting the government down, and we are capable of frustrating even our own government here. Federations in each countries, they are capable of doing so. So we don't want to go that route, but we can, if we are pushed to go that route.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahongora Kavihua, for highlighting the position of the Trade Union Congress of Namibia with regards to the happenings in Eswatini.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is Still Africa Good Morning, making sure that you are reliably informed with everything happening in the SADC region and beyond. We'll see you after the break. Now, one frustrating thing about being a SADC resident is that when you are in other countries, you always want your friends, colleagues, perhaps like Aina, to know what's happening in your country. And you don't always have the reliable information. And, sometimes you want to take them there, but all you can really do is listen to Talent Gore on Africa Good Morning, who can give us reliable news updates coming from Zimbabwe. Talent, Mangwanani.
Good morning, Ashwin. Good morning, Aina. How are you doing?
We are fantastic. Talent, it's always good to have you here. Now, in your first story, it's not a particularly fun one to talk about. The UN condemns child marriages in Zimbabwe after a 14-year-old girl dies giving birth. Truly saddening, tragic news. Could you tell us more about this?
The United Nations has condemned the practice of child marriages in Zimbabwe after a
Sorry,
14-year-old
Talent, could you please bring your
died.
microphone slightly closer to your mouth? We can't hear you as clearly as we would like to.
Okay. Well, the United Nations has condemned the child marriages in Zimbabwe after a 14-year-old girl died giving birth at a church shrine in Marange. The Apostolic Sect Church in Zimbabwe, apparently they child marriages, and this incident has caused outrage among citizens and rights activists. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Talent. Please do continue.
Okay. The case has brought forward the practice of churches within Zimbabwe's apostolic churches, which also allow polygamy. Apparently, 1 in 3 girls in Zimbabwe is likely to be married before turning 18, and the police and the state gender commission have said that they are investigating the case of Miss Memory Mashaya, who died whilst giving birth. The case was actually reported on July 15, but it only came to light this week when the relatives of the young girl apparently spoke to the state media after they were barred from attending a burial by church security. So they then went to the state media, and this brought about the story of this young girl who died whilst giving birth. Miss Memory Mashaya was reportedly forced to abandon school to get married. It is said that she got married to this man when she was only 11 years old. So apparently, the relatives have said that the family of Miss Memory Mashaya is actually planning giving Memory Mashaya's 9-year-old sister to the men who had.
Sorry, Talent, we seem to be losing you a bit there. Are you still there? Can you hear us? Talent, can you hear us? All right, unfortunately, we seem to have lost connection with Talent. She was highlighting a truly sad story, and we certainly hope that the authorities and the people in Zimbabwe who can assist can bring an end to child marriages. This is Still Africa. Good morning. Next up, your weather forecast.
If you're feeling how I'm feeling, and you know I won't stop. All we gotta do is take our love to the top. If I got it and you want it, and you'll never let it drop. All we gotta do is take our love to the top. I will ride for you, maybe even die for you. When I'm loving you, but my heart don't stop.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. The past week, Oshana region has been recording the highest numbers of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country. Joining us on the other line is our colleague Tunohole Mungoba, who's based in Oshana, to give us an overview of the situation on the ground. Good morning, Tunohole. How are you?
I am well. Good morning, Aina.
Well, I'm fantastic. So please tell us what you have for us this morning.
So on the 6th of August, Oshana region recorded about 54 cases, which has been the highest for the region within the past 3 weeks. And then you get results on the 7th of August. They recorded, I would say, they recorded 54 cases as well. So what we are seeing that's happening in the region is that there is an increase, but I wouldn't say only within the Oshana region, but also within the other O regions, because on the 7th of August, Ohangwena region recorded the highest COVID-19 cases in the country. So currently what's happening is that now that schools have reopened, there is a lot of fear amongst the learners, especially in the video that I'm going to introduce after this report, is that there's a lot of fear amongst the learners, not only because of the high number of cases, but also because of the anxiety, because the holiday was extended for so long, but are going to write their national exams next month, which is in September. So the learners are having this fear amongst themselves that they are not well prepared due to the extended for a longer period of time. But I would say that the vaccination process here in the Oshana region is going fairly slow compared to other parts, for example, like to other larger regions such as Komas and Irongo. But I would say that's because of all regions are they are very dispersed. Because I was having a chat with the governor of the Ohangwena region, and they only have 3 fixed points, which is Enana, and Okongo. And the distance between the three towns is so large that they have decided to work on introducing mobile teams. So what they do is that they work together with the local councillors. The local councillors then speak to the community leaders and community members who then decide on where the need is to set up mobile vaccination points. But just to add more detail to what I'm saying directly from the horse's mouth, the video that I have is of Elaine Nekomba, a grade 11 learner at Ekwafo Secondary School here in Oshana region in Ongwediva, just so that you can see what exactly the fear that I'm talking about with regards to the upcoming exams in September.
All right, Tuna, please lead us into the video that you have for us.
Okay, up next, we have a video of Elaine Nekomba, a grade 11 learner at Kwafo Secondary School, to speak about her academic plans for the remaining semester and her fears around the COVID-19 pandemic as a going learner.
Good day, my name is Eline Nekomba, a learner from Ekwafo Secondary School. School reopened recently on the 4th of August. We returned to school, but then there's this pandemic that we are worried about. With the whole coronavirus and everything, this has really put pressure on our education simply because we are also starting our exams in September, or we were expecting to start our exams in September. But then due to the delayed process, we do not even write the mock exams yet. We don't even know what's going on with the whole coronavirus thing. We don't know. And then as it is, we are in Oshana region. It's already recorded that our cases of Oshana region are going high, regardless of the mask. Okay, so far with the holiday extension, it's really putting pressure on our educational lives, especially with the subjects of like biology and physics, which have a lot of content. Like most of us has been already affected since last year, and we haven't covered a lot. And I myself, I really want to go to the advanced level, but then it's very tough with the requirements that are needed, the 3 C's or better grades in symbols. We are just so panicking, and national exam is knocking upon our doors. And I actually just want to say, especially for Oshana region, now that the cases are rising and the COVID cases are becoming so much, I just want to say, let us sanitize our hands, let us social distance, let us mask up ourselves, let us steam also. You know, when you got a little bit of flu, steam up. And yeah, and also for my fellow school goers, just want to say, yeah, we know we got a little bit of time, we got our extended holidays, and most of the content is not covered up, but let's push, let's just put an extra mile on our education and try to get there. Obviously, we're not gonna probably finish the whole content, but the 60% that you know, make sure you put it all in your question, in and everything, and you're definitely gonna get those 3 C's. Oh my God, what am I?
Wow, I can't imagine what it's like going to high school at this time. The
Yeah,
added pressure
yeah.
is incredible, and it's so good that she's still encouraging fellow students to keep their heads straight and go the extra mile. Thank you very much, Tonhole, for bringing us that comprehensive report.
Thank you, Ashwin.
All right, this is Africa Good Morning, bringing you the news as you need it. Right now, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with your economic news stories. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. As promised, it's time for us to get into your economic news stories for the day. And we start off in Botswana as BITC hauls 1.4 billion Pula FDI despite COVID-19. The Botswana Investment and Trade Center facilitated foreign direct investment to the tune of 1.38 billion Pula against an annual target of 1.8 billion in the 2020-2021 financial year, powering through COVID-19 induced stress in the global investor market. The CEO said during the 2020-2021 financial year, BITC continued to drive Botswana's economic growth through the attraction and promotion of FDI into the country. We also continue to carry out several initiatives targeted towards expanding Botswana's export base in line with the country's desire to be an export-led economy. We continue to implement a robust export promotion program in line with the new national export strategy, he said.
In our next story, Tshisekedi insists on lower prices for essential goods. The president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, encouraged sector ministers to move forward in their efforts to obtain lower prices for services and basic foodstuff. The president received the Minister of National Economy, Jean Kalumba, to discuss the work in progress relating to the fall in the prices of basic products and services. The head of state said the fall in these prices will strengthen the power of the people. He was also quoted saying the strengthening of the power of the people also passes by the fall in prices of goods and basic necessities.
Now in Eswatini, pay trading liquor licenses electronically. Government in partnership with MTN Eswatini has launched an efficient and innovative electronic payment system for key services. After introducing the electronic payment system for business registrations last year, which has reduced the inconvenience of having to physically travel to service centers, government and MTN took it a step further yesterday. In a breakfast meeting held at Royal Villas Ezulwini, it was announced the service was now being extended to trading and liquor license payments. Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade Mankoba Kumalo said, "I'm equally excited that these services will also extend to other critical government services. This will certainly transform the way governments provide services to the nation."
In our next story, binder in Fighting Hands lottery deal to SA firm. A bitter stakeholder battle at the country's first national lottery license holder, Growmine, has resulted in the Gambling Authority handing over the deal to South African lottery giant Intumba, which was the reserve applicant. Growmine, a 100% locally owned company, was awarded the 10-year license to operate the lottery in June last year. Business Week was established that the well-publicized clashes between the power and the wealthy stakeholders at Growmine failed to fulfill key terms of the agreement with the Gambling Authority. Last week, the Gambling Authority Board Secretary Joseph Matome said the negotiations with Growmine had proved unsuccessful and a discussion had been made to revoke the consortium status as a preferred binder.
Now, in the last of our economic news stories, oil falls in biggest weekly decline in months. Oil prices fell about 1% lower on Friday, posting to their steepest weekly losses in months on worries that travel restrictions to curb the spread of the Delta variant of COVID-19 will derail the global recovery in energy demand. Crude futures also came under pressure as the dollar strengthened after monthly U.S. job growth came in higher than expected. A stronger dollar makes greenback-denominated oil more expensive for buyers in other currencies. For the week, global benchmark Brent shed more than 6%, its largest week of losses in 4 months, and WTI tumbled nearly 7% in its biggest weekly decline in 9 months. The price action we see now is really a function of the macro picture, said Howie Lee, an economist at Singapore bank OCBC. The Delta variant is now really starting to hit home, and you see risk aversion in many markets, not just oil. Wow, worrying news to end the economic news stories indeed. And when you're that worried about where your money is going, a good way to make sure that you are on solid footing is by checking out our economic indicators up next.
The COVID-19 virus spreads mainly between people in close contact with each other. It spreads most easily in crowded settings, closed spaces with poor ventilation, or through prolonged contact with an infected person. This is because, as a person infected with the COVID-19 virus breathes, talks, coughs, or sneezes, liquid particles of various sizes are expelled into the air. Larger particles are called droplets. Smaller particles are called aerosols. You can contract the virus if infected particles come into contact with your eyes, nose, or mouth. Whether you are inside or outside, always maintain a physical distance of at least 1 meter from others. When you are in an enclosed or poorly ventilated space, the virus can spread more easily. In these conditions, aerosols can remain suspended in the air or travel farther than 1 meter. When you are inside, make sure to stay at least 1 meter from others. Wear a mask. Open a window to improve ventilation. And limit your time spent in these settings. To protect yourself and others, always follow these 6 precautions.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. It's time for us to get into your sports news update for the day. And we start off talking about the recently ended Tokyo Olympics 2020, ranking the top 10 African countries. In Africa, Kenya and Uganda emerged as the best African representatives at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, winning a combined 6 gold medals, with Kenya accounting for 4 of the whole. The Kenyans won gold in the men's and women's marathon and added the men's 800-meter and women's 1,500-meter events to give them 19th place in the global rankings. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge defended his Olympic marathon title, becoming only the 3rd man to win gold medals in back-to-back games, while Faith Kipyegon from Kenya also retained her Olympic women's 1,500-meter title. Uganda's Peruth Chemutai became the first Ugandan woman to win an Olympic gold medal in any sport when she triumphed in the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase, while Joshua Cheptegei won the men's 5,000-meter to take his 2nd. Team South Africa ended their Olympics campaign with just 3 medals, their worst return since Beijing 2008, despite taking their largest ever squad of athletes to an Olympics. And looking at the table, you can see Namibia and Botswana at the bottom 10, and obviously they hope to improve that at the next Olympics.
In our next story, Nadal slips out of top 3. Rafael Nadal slipped out of top 3 in new ATP ranking released on Monday. The 20-time Grand Slam winner Nadal lost to Lloyd Harris in the round of 16 in Washington to find himself dropping 1 place to number 4, with the Greek Stefanos Tsitsipas replacing him at 3. Novak Djokovic, who has won all 3 majors this year and his eyes firmly set on completing the sweep with another success at the US Open, remains comfortably at number 1.
All right, in our next story, we are talking golf as Erik van Rooyen over the moon after Barracuda victory. South Africa's Erik van Rooyen birdied the 18th hole with the help of a lucky bounce to win the 2021 Barracuda Championship on Sunday for his first victory on the USPGA Tour. The 31-year-old from Cape Town scored 16 points in the 4th round for a 50-point total and a 5-shot win over runner-up Andrew Putnam of the United States at the Old Greenwood course in Truckee, California. When it is your day, said Van Rooyen. Van Rooyen becomes the 3rd South African to win on the PGA Tour this year, joining Brandon Grace and Garrick Higgo. This is the first time 3 different South Africans have won in the same season since 2010, when Ernie, the Big Easy Els, Tim Clark and Louis Oosthuizen did it.
In our next story, fans outside Messi's house devastated over Stars Barca exit. Barcelona fans gathered outside Lionel Messi's house on Monday and spoke of their sadness at the club's greatest ever player leaving after 21 years, while PSG fans eagerly waited his arrival in the French capital. A tearful Messi on Sunday bid farewell to the club he has spent his entire career at and said he was talking with the French club, the PSG, over a possible move. I feel devastated, said Cristiana Garcia, wearing a Barca shirt with Messi's name and number 10 on the back outside of the player's home. To see a player that I've always followed, who is an example for me, to see him leave now brings me a lot of pain. Messi said he had agreed a 50% pay cut in order to stay at Barca and sign a new contract, but was unable to finalize the deal due to the Spanish league's financial controls, rules, and the club's debt, which total more than 1 billion euros.
Truly saddening news for fans of Barcelona, and sad for me because I was honestly expecting Messi to come to Mamelodi Sundowns, but you don't always get what you want. In our last sports news story, South Africa's medal winner will not get bonuses. The South African Sports Confederation and Olympics Committee has confirmed that it will not provide bonuses to the two athletes who won our only medals at the Games in Tokyo. In what was a relatively bleak Olympics for Team South Africa, both Tatiana Schoenmaker and Bianca Buitendag won 3 medals. Schoenmaker scooped a gold and a silver in the pool, whereas Buitendag finished second in the serving. With so few athletes finishing on the podium for South Africa, one would assume that SASCOC could find a bit of spare change behind the office sofas to reward our shining lights. Alas, it seems we are asking too much. That's sad to hear.
Yeah,
perhaps
why
the private sector in South Africa can take a tip from the private sector in Namibia, which has fully supported its Olympic winners. So yeah, you know, sometimes you can learn from each other.
Endorsements are where it's at.
Yes.
Endorse our girls.
Yes, it's up to the citizens to show how much they love them. All right, this is To Africa. Good morning. We'll be back after the break with your headlines. Africa Good Morning has been streaming live from 7 a.m., bringing you the news happening in the SADC region and beyond. Now, if you missed our top stories at the top of the hour or perhaps need a recap, here are some of the headlines. Global warming unequivocally human-driven at unprecedented rate, IPCC. President and chairperson of SADC direct launch of the SADC mission in Mozambique. 4 billion kwacha for SADC summit. Mozambique police catch 15 illegal Malawians heading to South Africa. BITC holds in 1.4 billion Pula FDI despite COVID-19. Tokyo 2020 ranking the top 10 African countries. Those have been our stories.
We thank you very much for joining us. Please do make sure you visit our website, oneup2.com, for more content and everything else that you might love. Now, this has been Africa Good Morning. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. Our email is agm_2centsworth@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, we are on Facebook and Twitter. It's at Africa Good Morning. Like I always say, our DMs are open. Please do not forget to get yourself vaccinated, wear your mask, and avoid unnecessary public gatherings. From all of us in studio, it's all our love and all our light.
Until the middle of the week, Swera Jaganaka.